Jessica Turner's hands trembled as she stared at her computer screen. The small notification in the corner of her monitor felt like a death sentence. Message delivered. 3 simple words that meant her career at Horizon Technologies was probably over. She had just sent Vincent Harper, the company's notoriously exacting CEO, her personal medical bills instead of the third-quarter budget analysis. Not just any medical bills either. The complete breakdown of her cancer treatment costs, totaling $62,000 in out-of-pocket expenses that had drained every penny of her savings and pushed her into devastating debt. The mounting panic Jessica pressed her palms against her eyes, willing herself not to cry at her desk. She was the financial coordinator for one of Boston's fastest-growing tech companies. She was supposed to be meticulous, organized, and absolutely professional. Instead, she had just exposed her most private struggle to the one person who held complete power over her employment. The irony was bitter. She had been working 18-hour days for months, determined to prove that her diagnosis hadn't diminished her capabilities. Every morning, she arrived before dawn to compensate for the afternoons when chemotherapy fatigue made concentration nearly impossible. Every evening, she stayed late to triple-check her work, terrified that her illness would be used as an excuse to let her go. The dreaded summons. Her desk phone rang, and Jessica nearly jumped out of her chair. The caller ID showed Executive Suite. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she picked up the receiver with a shaking hand. "Ms. Turner, Mr. Harper would like to see you immediately." The voice belonged to Claire Morrison, Vincent's executive assistant. Her tone was neutral, but Jessica detected an undercurrent of something else. Sympathy, perhaps. Jessica grabbed her laptop bag, stuffing the correct budget report inside, along with a folder of supporting documents. Maybe if she showed him the actual analysis quickly enough, they could move past this humiliating mistake. Maybe he would simply issue a stern warning and let her keep her job. Maybe her world wasn't actually ending. The long walk, the elevator ride to the 20th floor felt endless. Jessica caught her reflection in the polished steel doors. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, despite the concealer she had applied that morning. Her brown hair, once thick and glossy, was now hidden beneath a silk scarf that she had tied in what she hoped was a professional style. The chemotherapy had stolen her hair 3 months ago, along with her energy, her savings, and nearly her hope. But she was still fighting, still working, still refusing to be defined by her diagnosis. The corner office, Vincent Harper's office, occupied the entire northeast corner of the building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of Boston Harbor, but Jessica barely noticed the scenery. Her attention fixed on the man behind the massive oak desk. At 42, Vincent Harper was younger than most CEOs of companies this size. He had built Horizon Technologies from a small startup into a major player in cybersecurity software. His reputation was formidable, brilliant, demanding, and utterly uncompromising when it came to excellence. He had dark hair touched with gray. At the temples, sharp features, and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Those eyes were currently focused on a document lying on his desk. Even from across the room, Jessica recognized the hospital logo at the top of the page. Her medical bill, printed out. Every devastating detail exposed in black and white. The confrontation. "Close the door, Ms. Turner." Vincent's voice was calm, which somehow made everything worse. Jessica had expected anger. She could have handled anger. This measured composure was far more terrifying. She shut the door and approached his desk, her legs feeling disconnected from her body. "Mr. Harper, I apologize profusely for the confusion. I have the actual budget analysis right here." She fumbled with her laptop bag, pulling out the folder. Vincent held up one hand, stopping her. "Sit down, please." Jessica sat, perching on the edge of the leather chair facing his desk. She folded her hands in her lap to hide their shaking. Vincent picked up the medical bill, studying it with an expression she could not read. "Massachusetts Oncology Center. Dr. Patricia Walsh performed your treatment. It was not a question, but a statement of fact. Jessica blinked in confusion. How did he know her oncologist's name just from looking at the bill? The unexpected question. Stage 3 breast cancer, Vincent continued, his eyes moving down the document. Aggressive chemotherapy protocol, followed by radiation, recent immunotherapy treatments. He looked up at her. How are you managing? The question was so unexpected that Jessica answered honestly before she could stop herself. I'm still here, still working. The prognosis is cautiously optimistic. Something flickered in Vincent's expression. Pain, perhaps, or recognition. These immunotherapy treatments, he tapped the bill, they're experimental. Your insurance denied coverage. Heat flooded Jessica's face. That's not relevant to my job performance, Mr. Harper. I can assure you that my personal situation has not affected my work quality. Has it not? Vincent leaned back in his chair, studying her with unsettling intensity. You've been arriving at 5 in the morning and leaving after 9 at night. You've lost 20 pounds since your diagnosis. Your work remains excellent, but you're running yourself into the ground, Ms. Turner. Anyone can see that. Jessica's throat tightened. She had been so careful, so determined to appear unaffected. I can handle my responsibilities. I'm sure you can. Vincent stood abruptly, moving to the window. He stood there for a long moment, hands clasped behind his back, gazing out at the harbor. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter. My mother died of cancer when I was 16. Ovarian cancer, stage 4 by the time they found it. Jessica sat frozen, unsure how to respond to this sudden personal revelation. Vincent Harper never discussed his private life. Everyone knew he was intensely private, that his past was a mystery he guarded carefully. She worked until the very end, Vincent continued, still facing the window. Refused to slow down, refused to accept help. She was terrified that showing weakness would cost her the job that was keeping us afloat. He turned back to face Jessica. She died exhausted and alone because she was too proud to let anyone see her struggle. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning Jessica was only beginning to understand. Vincent Harper returned to his desk and sat down, his expression unreadable once more. Jessica remained frozen in her chair, her mind racing to process what he had just shared. The formidable CEO who never showed vulnerability had just revealed a piece of his past that explained so much about the man he had become. Mr. Harper, I appreciate you sharing that with me, but I assure you I'm managing everything appropriately. Jessica's voice was steady despite the chaos inside her. She needed to steer this conversation back to professional ground before she lost what little composure she had left. Vincent picked up his phone and tapped the screen several times. Your medical debt is $62,000. The hospital has you on a payment plan of $1,200 monthly for the next 5 years. Meanwhile, you're still undergoing treatment every 3 weeks, which means those bills will continue to grow. He set the phone down and looked directly at her. Am I correct? Jessica's face burned with embarrassment and anger. How do you know all of this? Have you been investigating my personal finances? I make it my business to understand when my key employees are under extraordinary stress. Vincent's tone remained maddeningly calm. You've taken no sick days despite undergoing chemotherapy. You've declined offers of remote work flexibility. You've refused to reduce your project load. That kind of behavior tells me something is wrong beyond the obvious medical crisis. The foundation, Jessica stood abruptly, her professional mask cracking. With all due respect, my personal financial situation is none of your concern. I came here prepared to discuss the budget analysis you requested. If you want to fire me for a careless email mistake, then please just do it. But don't pretend this is about concern for my well-being. Vincent studied her for a long moment, then pressed a button on his desk phone. Claire, please come in. His assistant entered immediately, carrying a leather portfolio. She gave Jessica a small, encouraging smile that only deepened her confusion. Ms. Turner, Vincent began. What I'm about to tell you is known to only 3 people in this company. Claire, our head of human resources, and now you. He opened the portfolio Claire had placed before him. 8 years ago, after my mother's death, I established something called the Lighthouse Foundation. Jessica slowly sat back down, her anger giving way to curiosity. The foundation's purpose is to provide financial assistance to individuals facing catastrophic medical expenses that insurance companies refuse to cover. Vincent pulled out several documents. We operate quietly without publicity because the goal is not recognition. The goal is simply to help, Claire spoke up, her voice gentle. Over the past 8 years, the Lighthouse Foundation has helped 217 families. We've funded experimental treatments, covered gaps in insurance, and provided support for people who fell through the cracks of our healthcare system. The unbelievable offer Jessica felt dizzy. This could not be real. Vincent Harper, the man known for his ruthless business decisions and demanding standards, ran a secret charity for medical patients. I don't understand. Why are you telling me this? Vincent slid a document across the desk toward her. Because you're going to be recipient number 218. Jessica looked down at the paper. It was a grant approval form from the Lighthouse Foundation. Her name was typed at the top. The amount listed was $62,000, the full amount of her medical debt. No. The word came out as barely a whisper. No, I cannot accept this. Ms. Turner, Vincent's voice took on a firmer edge. This is not charity in the way you're thinking. This is an investment. You are one of the most talented financial analysts this company has ever employed. Your budget projections have saved Horizon Technologies millions of dollars. Your risk assessments have prevented us from making costly mistakes. You are valuable, and I refuse to watch you destroy yourself trying to manage an impossible situation alone. Tears burned in Jessica's eyes. She blinked them back furiously, determined not to break down in front of her CEO. I've never asked anyone for help. I've always handled things myself. I know. Vincent's expression softened almost imperceptibly. That's precisely why you need it. The hidden truth Claire pulled up a chair beside Jessica and sat down. Jessica, I've worked with Vincent for 6 years. I've seen him build this foundation from nothing. Every single recipient is chosen because they demonstrate the same qualities Vincent saw in his mother: strength, determination, and a refusal to give up even when circumstances become unbearable. Vincent stood and walked to a bookshelf behind his desk. He pulled down a framed photograph and handed it to Jessica. The image showed a woman in her 40s, thin and frail but smiling radiantly. She wore a hospital gown and a colorful headscarf. Beside her stood a teenage boy with his arm around her shoulders. The resemblance to Vincent was unmistakable. That was taken 2 weeks before she died, Vincent said quietly. She was still trying to smile, still trying to be strong for me. I was too young to understand what that strength cost her. He took the photo back and returned it to its place. I'm not too young anymore, Ms. Turner, and I recognize that same destructive pride in you. Jessica wiped at her eyes, no longer caring about maintaining her professional facade. Why me? There must be thousands of people who need help more than I do. Because you're here, Vincent said simply. Because fate or coincidence or a simple email mistake brought your situation to my attention. Because I have the power to help you, and choosing not to would make me complicit in your suffering. The new assignment, Vincent returned to his desk and pulled out another document. There's a condition attached to this assistance. I want you to help me improve Horizon Technologies' health insurance coverage. Our current plan is inadequate. Too many exclusions, too many gaps, too much burden placed on employees during their most vulnerable moments. Jessica looked up in surprise. You want me to redesign the company health benefits? I want you to work with our Human Resources Department to research and propose a comprehensive benefits package that actually protects our employees. Vincent's expression was serious. You have unique insight now into where the system fails. Use that knowledge. Help me build something better, Claire added. We've been trying to convince Vincent to do this for years, but he's always worried about the cost implications. Your budget expertise combined with your personal experience could finally make this happen. Jessica's mind was reeling. In the span of 30 minutes, her world had completely transformed. She had walked into this office expecting to be fired. Instead, she was being offered financial salvation and the opportunity to create meaningful change for every person who worked at Horizon Technologies. The acceptance. "I don't know what to say," Jessica admitted, her voice thick with emotion. "Say yes," Vincent replied. "Say you'll accept the help you deserve and use your experience to help others. Say you'll stop trying to carry impossible burdens alone." Jessica looked down at the grant approval form again. The amount seemed surreal. Freedom from debt. The ability to focus on healing instead of constantly calculating payment schedules and interest rates. The chance to breathe again. "There must be people who need this money more desperately than I do," she said one last time, though her resistance was crumbling. Vincent leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Need is not a competition, Ms. Turner. Your suffering does not become less valid because someone else might be suffering more. You need help. I can provide it. The equation is that simple." Jessica felt something break open inside her chest. All the months of struggling alone, of refusing to burden her aging father or her friends with her crisis, of maintaining a perfect professional appearance while drowning in fear and debt. She had been so strong for so long. Maybe it was time to let someone else be strong for her. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I accept. And thank you. Thank you for seeing what I was too proud to admit." Vincent's expression transformed. For the first time since Jessica had known him, he smiled. Not the polite corporate smile he used in meetings, but something genuine and warm. "Good. Claire will handle the paperwork. The foundation will contact the hospital directly. Within 72 hours, your debt will be cleared." As Jessica stood to leave, her legs unsteady beneath her, Vincent spoke once more. "Ms. Turner, one more thing. Take tomorrow off. Rest. Let yourself feel relief instead of immediately jumping to the next task. That's not a request. That's an order from your CEO." Jessica nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. As she walked out of Vincent Harper's office, she felt as though she was floating. The weight she had been carrying for so long had suddenly vanished, and she was not quite sure how to exist without it. Behind her, she heard Claire say softly to Vincent, "That was a good thing you did today." Vincent's reply was quiet but clear. "It's what she would have wanted me to do." Jessica knew he was talking about his mother, and she understood that sometimes the greatest gift we can give is not just help, but the dignity of accepting it. 3 days later, Jessica sat in her apartment staring at a letter from Massachusetts Oncology Center. Her hands trembled as she read the words printed in bold across the top of the page. Account balance, $0,000. Below that, a simple note explained that her outstanding balance had been paid in full by the Lighthouse Foundation. She had taken the day off as Vincent ordered, spending most of it sleeping deeply for the first time in months. When she woke, the relief felt almost physical, as though someone had removed chains she had not realized were binding her. But with the relief came something unexpected, a growing curiosity about the man who had saved her. Her phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. The caller ID showed Horizon Technologies. "Hello? Jessica, it's Claire Morrison. Do you have time to talk?" The executive assistant's voice was friendly, lacking the formality she usually maintained in the office. "Of course. Is everything all right?" "More than all right. Vincent asked me to reach out about the benefits project. He'd like to start immediately if you're feeling up to it. There's someone he wants you to meet tomorrow evening. Someone who can help guide your research." Jessica felt a flutter of nervousness mixed with excitement. "Who?" "Dr. Patricia Walsh, your oncologist." Claire paused. "Vincent has been consulting with her for years about the Foundation's work. She helps identify patients who might benefit from assistance and advises on which experimental treatments show genuine promise versus those that are simply expensive false hopes." The dinner meeting, Next evening, Jessica found herself in a private dining room at one of Boston's most elegant restaurants. She had dressed carefully, choosing a deep blue dress that did not wash out her pale complexion and a silk scarf in complementary tones. She was still getting used to her reflection without hair, but tonight she felt almost beautiful. Vincent arrived first, looking different outside the corporate environment. He wore dark jeans and a charcoal sweater instead of his usual tailored suit. The casual clothing made him seem more approachable, more human. "Miss Turner, thank you for coming." He pulled out a chair for her, a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and surprisingly natural. "I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of ordering wine." Dr. Walsh texted that she's running 15 minutes late. Emergency consultation with a patient. Jessica settled into her seat, accepting the glass of wine he poured for her. "Please call me Jessica. After everything that's happened, Ms. Turner feels too formal." Something shifted in Vincent's expression. "Then you should call me Vincent, at least outside the office." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and Jessica studied him with new eyes. She had always seen him as her demanding boss, a figure of authority to impress and perhaps fear slightly. Now she saw the layers beneath. The boy who had lost his mother. The man who channeled his grief into helping strangers. The leader who cared more than he allowed anyone to see. "I have questions," Jessica said finally, "about the foundation. About why you keep it secret." Vincent swirled his wine glass, considering his words. "People treat you differently when they know you have money to give away. They start seeing you as a solution to their problems rather than a person. I wanted the foundation's work to be pure. No publicity seekers, no people exaggerating their needs to qualify. Just genuine help for people who genuinely need it. How do you choose who to help?" "Claire handles most of the research. We have connections with several hospitals and oncology centers. Doctors like Patricia Walsh identify patients who are facing impossible choices because of insurance limitations. We verify the medical necessity, confirm the financial hardship, and provide funding. Simple as that. The doctor's insight doctor." Patricia Walsh arrived in a rush of energy, her graying hair slightly disheveled and her eyes bright with intelligence. She was in her late 50s with the kind of warm presence that immediately put people at ease. "Vincent, Jessica, my apologies for the delay. Mrs. Chen's scans showed some concerning developments." Vincent stood to greet her with a hug that spoke of genuine friendship. "Is she going to be all right?" "We're adjusting her treatment protocol. She's a fighter." Patricia turned to Jessica with a knowing smile. "And speaking of fighters, you're looking much better than the last time I saw you, my dear. Less weight on your shoulders, perhaps?" Jessica felt her cheeks warm. "Thanks to Vincent and the foundation. I still can't quite believe it's real." Patricia sat down and accepted the wine Vincent poured for her. "Oh, it's very real. Vincent has been doing this quietly for years. Do you know how many of my patients he's helped? 37. 37 people who might have given up or bankrupted their families or forgone life-saving treatment. Instead, they got to focus on healing. Throughout dinner, Patricia shared stories. Not names, but situations. The single mother with 3 children who needed experimental treatment for a rare cancer. The elderly veteran whose service-related illness was somehow excluded from coverage. The young teacher whose leukemia diagnosis came just months before his insurance would have vested at his new school. Each story was a testament to the foundation's impact, but also to the fundamental brokenness of the healthcare system. Jessica listened intently, her analytical mind already cataloging problems and potential solutions. The growing connection. As the evening progressed, Jessica noticed something unexpected. The way Vincent looked at her had changed. It was no longer the assessing gaze of a CEO evaluating an employee. There was something softer there, something almost tender. Patricia noticed too. After sharing a particularly moving story about a patient who had written a letter of gratitude to the foundation, she excused herself to take a phone call, leaving Vincent and Jessica alone. "You care deeply about this work," Jessica observed. "It's not just about honoring your mother's memory, is it? It's become something more personal to you." Vincent set down his wine glass and met her eyes. "I've spent years building a successful company. I've made more money than I could spend in several lifetimes. But the foundation work is the only thing that makes me feel truly useful. Every person we help, every life we make easier, it matters in a way that profit margins never will." "Is that why you've stayed so private about it? Because you don't want it to become about your success story?" "Partly." Vincent hesitated, as if deciding how much to reveal. "But also because the work is painful sometimes. Every grant we approve represents someone in crisis. Every application we review is a reminder that our healthcare system fails the people who need it most. I carry those stories with me, Jessica. All of them. Jessica reached across the table instinctively, placing her hand over his. You can't save everyone, Vincent. What you're doing is already extraordinary. Vincent turned his hand over, his fingers intertwining with hers. The gesture was intimate, unexpected, and somehow perfectly natural. I'm learning that lesson slowly. But having you involved in this project, seeing someone who understands both the financial complexities and the human cost, it gives me hope that we can create something truly meaningful. The proposal takes shape. Patricia returned, glancing at their joined hands with a small, knowing smile. Well, shall we discuss the business at hand? Jessica, Vincent tells me you're going to revolutionize Horizon Technologies' health benefits. Jessica reluctantly withdrew her hand from Vincent's, though she could still feel the warmth of his touch. I'm going to try, but I need to understand the full scope of what's possible. What do you wish insurance companies covered that they currently don't? For the next hour, Patricia outlined the gaps in typical coverage, experimental treatments that showed promise but had not yet cleared bureaucratic hurdles, supportive care that improved quality of life but was deemed non-essential, mental health services for patients and families dealing with catastrophic diagnoses, transportation costs for people who lived far from specialized treatment centers. Jessica took notes on her tablet, her mind already forming frameworks and cost analyses. What if we self-funded certain categories? Large companies can sometimes get better outcomes by directly covering specific high-cost scenarios rather than paying premium increases to insurance companies. Vincent leaned forward, his business acumen engaged. Explain. Insurance companies spread risk across populations, which means they price premiums to protect their profits. But a company like Horizon has stable cash flow and could potentially set aside reserves for catastrophic coverage. We could maintain traditional insurance for standard care but create an internal fund for the gaps. Experimental treatments, extended therapy, things that genuinely help people but get excluded from typical plans. Patricia's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. You'd have more control over which treatments to approve, and you could make decisions based on medical merit rather than arbitrary policy language. As the evening wound down and Patricia departed with promises to connect Jessica with other specialists who could advise on the project, Vincent walked Jessica to her car. The autumn air was crisp, and the city lights reflected off the harbor in the distance. Thank you for tonight, Jessica said, unlocking her car door. This project feels important, like I might actually be able to help people the way you've helped me. Vincent stepped closer, and Jessica's breath caught. In the dim parking garage lighting, his features were softer, more vulnerable than she had ever seen them. Jessica, I need to tell you something, and I hope it won't make things awkward between us. What is it? When I saw your medical bills, when I realized what you'd been going through alone, something shifted for me. It wasn't just about the Foundation's mission anymore. It became personal in a way I didn't expect. He paused, searching for words. I admire your strength, but I also see your humanity. The way you've fought to maintain your dignity while dealing with something terrifying. The way you've refused to let your illness define you. I find myself thinking about you constantly, wanting to know if you're feeling well, if you need anything, if you're truly healing. Jessica's heart pounded. Vincent, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that somewhere between reviewing your medical bills and watching you challenge me on healthcare policy tonight, I've developed feelings for you that go beyond professional respect. He smiled ruefully. Terrible timing, I know. You're dealing with cancer treatment and starting a major project. The last thing you need is your CEO complicating your life. Jessica surprised herself by laughing softly. You know what's funny? I've spent months being terrified of showing any weakness around you. I thought you were this untouchable figure who would judge me for being ill. Instead, you turned out to be the one person who truly understood what I was going through. Does that mean I haven't completely ruined this moment? Jessica stepped closer, closing the distance between them. It means that maybe catastrophic email mistakes sometimes lead to exactly where we need to be. Vincent reached up, gently touching the silk scarf covering her head. You're beautiful, Jessica. With or without hair, in sickness or in health, you're remarkable. The new beginning. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, filled with the awareness that they were crossing a line that would change everything. When they finally pulled apart, Jessica felt tears on her cheeks, though she was not sure if they were from joy or relief, or simply the overwhelming emotion of the past week. "We should probably discuss the professional implications of this," Vincent said, though he made no move to step away from her. "We should," Jessica agreed, "but maybe not tonight. Tonight, I just want to feel happy. Is that allowed?" "It's absolutely allowed." Vincent pulled her into a hug, and Jessica rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. For the first time since her diagnosis, she felt truly safe. Not just financially secure, but emotionally supported in a way she had never experienced before. Over the following weeks, Jessica threw herself into the benefits project with renewed purpose. She interviewed employees, researched best practices, consulted with healthcare experts, and built financial models. Vincent supported her work publicly, while their personal relationship developed privately, carefully navigating the complexities of workplace dynamics. The comprehensive benefits proposal she eventually presented to Horizon's board of directors was groundbreaking. It included provisions for experimental treatment coverage, mental health support, transportation assistance, and a catastrophic care fund that would ensure no employee ever faced the impossible choices she had confronted. The board approved it unanimously, impressed by both the thorough analysis and the clear humanitarian vision. Within 6 months, 3 employees utilized the new benefits, their gratitude echoing the relief Jessica had felt in Vincent's office that fateful day. The full circle 1 year after the accidental email that changed everything, Jessica stood in front of Massachusetts Oncology Center receiving her final treatment. Vincent sat beside her, holding her hand as the last dose of medication dripped through her IV. Dr. Walsh stopped by to check on them, her smile broad. "Clear scans, completed treatment protocol, excellent prognosis. Jessica, you've beaten this thing." "We've beaten it," Jessica corrected, squeezing Vincent's hand. "I couldn't have done this alone." That evening, Vincent took her back to the same restaurant where they'd had dinner with Dr. Walsh a year earlier. But this time, he had a different kind of proposal in mind. As he knelt beside their table, presenting a ring that caught the candlelight, Jessica realized that her catastrophic mistake had led to the greatest blessing of her life. She said yes through tears of joy, knowing that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best transformations. Her illness had brought her to the edge of despair, but it had also brought her to Vincent. Together, they would continue the Foundation's work, help more people facing impossible choices, and build a life based on compassion, understanding, and the profound belief that everyone deserves help when they need it most. The accidental email had shocked everyone, but the love story that emerged from it was the greatest surprise of all. The end.